Hey, peace, everybody. I'm sorry for the couple minutes of delay. I'm here. I'm just going to wait for all the links to start streaming, which it looks like they are. And folks on Instagram, I got a bigger monitor until every time I try to do Instagram Live, although it might be doing it. Oh, it is doing it. But I'm still going to keep y'all on. So, because finally, that means y'all watching me maybe in two places. I don't know exactly what it means. All I know is I've been trying to do this forever, and now I can do it. Hey, RLNDO. Yeah, if you want to make comments, go to my YouTube page. Okay, let me reset. Peace, everybody. My name is Rosa Alicia Clemente, a longtime organizer, producer, scholar, activist. Born in the Bronx, raised in the Bronx, and then Elmsford, New York. So I wanted to come on today because, first and foremost, to everybody in Minneapolis, I'm with you. I think the world is with you. It's deep and intense. And every day there's just more and more violence against the people of Minneapolis. What we do know is the images, and images never lie. People say we've been here before, maybe, but the only time the Insurrection Act was actually used in the modern times was after the Rodney King and the officers that beat him got up in the LA rebellion, right? The biggest one since the Watts rebellion. I use the word rebellion because they're not riots to me. You know, I've been on the ground a lot in these years. For me, Ferguson was the time that I really was like, okay, all the military apparatus that so many of the police have, like, why did Ferguson, a small little outburst, have the police had tanks? Because after 9/11, and there could be people watching me right now that weren't even born, but after 9/11 came a crackdown of activists. For years, you know, the New York City Police Department was surveilling the Muslim community. Organizations I know were infiltrated, but the federal government then began to deploy these kind of tanks and tear gas and pepper spray, you know, and all that. That's when the Insurrection Act the last time. And it was to quell the rebellion because the LAPD was there was a lot going on and the people were winning. And the LAPD could not handle the amount of people out on the streets, okay? Also, I know I look weird, like mad light and weird. I don't know. Am I just like me? Maybe. Oh, I live in Albany, New York. We don't get a lot of sun during the winter. I need more vitamin D. But anyway, Trump said he's thinking about invoking the Insurrection Act. All right, so let's just be clear that everything he says, everything he does is covered under immunity for past, present, and current. Okay, so like, I am not frustrated with right-wingers or white supremacists or like white supremacist pundits like Scott Jennings who get a seat every day on the Abby Phillips show. Because I actually also believe CNN, MSNBC, so-called progressive left media, but the legacy media that's also crumbling, right? And now that CBS has bought Paramount, or is it the other way around? And then people should have seen what happened during the 60 Minutes piece that one of its reporters, the news department that now is run by Barry Weiss, a well-known Zionist, who The New York Times started this thing. Paramount paid her 150 million for it, and then they're like, "You're head of the news department," right? So with that, and MSNBC just like shilling for the Democrats, it's I find them complicit in why Trump is the president and why things in this country are getting worse. Excuse me. That's why I'm always telling people, watch something else, watch Democracy Now, and all that kind of stuff. So I've been figuring out what I can do, because I think a lot of us are frustrated. A lot of us are, if you're even a person that has empathy, everybody's going through it, you know? But it's important to understand clearly why this is happening. My belief is that he can invoke the Insurrection Act in the November 2026 elections. People always say, that's not going to happen. Well, it's happening. The brutality of these evil people knows no bounds. I was listening to Democracy Now! Today, and I can't lift the video in, so just take a moment to listen to what is happening around ICE arresting U.S. citizens using banned chokeholds. This is for ProPublica report. You can see the interview on DN, or you could go right to ProPublica. I also, I think we really need to be careful about language. Like, people seem to be in an uproar because Renee Good was a United States citizen. But I do think it's dangerous if we start saying ICE is arresting United States citizens. I think we should say ICE is arresting people and terrorizing people in communities all throughout this country. Like, this U.S. citizenship that particularly Black and brown people have never meant democracy. African American Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens, and look how we are being treated. So we as organizers and movement folks do not use this language to separate us, because they're coming for all of us. People had texted me and said, do you think there would be this outrage and anger and disbelief? Do you think, Rosa, it's a big deal because a white woman was killed? I said, absolutely, of course it is. And even with that, real true blue organizers and movement folks, we don't roll like that. We're not like, oh, she was white, like of course they're gonna cover the white girl. No. We want to see it in the context. And we are honest. I'm honest. Of course, if she was a Black or brown woman, there might not be this level of anger. But then as a movement person, all life is precious. The woman was shot 3 times in her face. Someone told me that's a doctor, like, her face probably doesn't even exist. And was it also the patriarchy? Yes, because everybody heard that last part, right? The other dude shoots her car, right? She slumped over, so the car crashes. And then you hear, fucking bitch. And that's the patriarchy. So, I think everybody in a big city better get ready. I think they're using Minneapolis, though, more as a testing ground for the new chemical spray, the orange one that we've been seeing, and to go now to smaller cities, right? And then get to the more smaller cities like where I live in Albany, New York, we've seen an uprise in ICE out here. We have a very huge refugee community from Syria. Many Dominicans and Puerto Ricans have been moving up here. I've been here about 11 years, and it's changing. The demographic is overwhelmingly now. Albany is a city of mostly people of color. Yes, we have a black mayor. For me, I don't trust none of these Democrats. What are they doing? Where are you? Why don't you join the people in the streets? Why don't you do what Maria Issa is doing as a state representative in Minnesota who lives in Minneapolis, who's an incredible organizer and artist herself? She's with the people. She's not in a conference call or somewhere hidden. She's in the streets. The Democratic Party should also be in the streets with their constituents. Why don't you? Yes, please shut the government down. Is that a privilege thing coming from me? Yes, I would say yeah. But if it doesn't stop now, it's done. So people are going to have to make some hard choices. And you know what? We're going to everybody needs to be speaking out in whatever circle they're on. Okay? And if you're not an organizer, at the end of this, I'm going to tell you about something you can get involved with. So how does this relate to Bad Bunny? I'm going to tell you how. And I should have a mug instead of this big water thing, but I'm a woman in menopause and everything is hot and everything is just pretty brutal. But I wanted to just read because also as a woman in menopause, sometimes they call it fog brain. And I said, Rosa, write everything down. So then I can publish it and anybody could pick it up and join and send it to your folks, okay? From the streets of Minneapolis, 6 years after the murder of George Floyd, to 11 years ago, Ferguson, after Mike Brown was killed, this country shows over and over, and I need to put Renee Good in that, so I'm glad I'm reading it out. It treats Black life as disposable and Black resistance as a threat to be contained. When armored vehicles rode through our neighborhoods, when police in military gear, when ICE murders someone, when in Chicago, ICE rappels down into a building in the middle of the night to terrify 8 years old to 80 years old. We need to take very seriously right now where this country is headed. When Mike Brown was murdered in Ferguson in 2014, his body was left in the street for hours. A new generation of Black and brown youth, working class youth, that rebellion was led by these people. When Black Lives Matter became an era of historical resistance, we begin to see women, Black women, but also queer and trans people who were no longer going to ask for permission and who were no longer going to apologize for who they are. Personally, for me, Ferguson became a turning point in my life. And I get emotional about it a lot because 11 years later, the amount of so-called scholar activists and movement people who made millions off the back of the Ferguson Rebellion have literally abandoned those that rose up. In the 11 years since Ferguson, remind me later. 3 Black men were found to have died in circumstances that not have been determined yet. So Ferguson for me became a turning point because that's the night that I saw all the ways local police can use military apparatus against its own people. What we're seeing now in Minneapolis is an occupation of a city. They responded not only with police, and sometimes the police work with them, if not most of the times. But what they're doing right now is they're goons and they're thugs. They are a new iteration of the Gestapo. But for Puerto Rico, especially people on the island, but since 1898, 128 years of us being occupied by the United States, of us and our resources being extracted. Puerto Ricans who fled to New York City and Chicago in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, but particularly the 40s to the 60s, were forced to leave because of the occupation of the United States and the United States colonizing us. They also took the economy and made it for them, but they also used, like Johnson & Johnson, our women to test birth control. The United States Navy have particularly been using Vieques for bombing practices for decades. But in April of 1990, I would say 95, 96, maybe 96, a young National Guard, as they were doing, the military was doing its training practices in Vieques, dropped a bomb on him, and it began the U.S. Navy out of Vieques movement. And when that movement won, I was actually there that night in 2003, when at midnight the U.S. left. Like they rolled out the tanks, they put their weapons down and left. And I was covering that. And if you want to see my coverage for that, Google my name on Democracy Now! I was there. And all of a sudden I turn and I see Lolita Lebron with Dilcia Pagan. Lolita Lebron, one of my sheroes, one person that I began to know when I began to understand that even though I was born as a Boricua and my parents who raised us proud Boricuas, I did not know anything about my history. I didn't even ever question why I was a U.S. citizen. It was never a conversation. I never questioned why I have people in my family that are light, that are café con leche, all the way to café con no leche. I knew my dad phenotypically looked Black and my mom phenotypically is light. But they raised us as strong Boricuas. So when I became and got to SUNY Albany and started joining organizations, but one in particular that became really who made me who I am, the Albany State University Black Alliance, I went to a meeting. And after it, I felt so good. And then I was like, man, I can't join. I'm Puerto Rican. And this is for people of African descent. So I went up to the leadership. And I said, man, I want to be in this organization really bad, but I'm not a person of African descent. And he was like, no, you are. I was like, what? And he's like, girl, let me mentor you. What? I took Intro to Civil Rights Movement, Intro to Puerto Rican Studies, the rhetoric of Malcolm X, the purposeful undevelopment of the continent of Africa, and a Black family class. I was hooked. A year and a half later, I became president of the Albany State University Black Alliance. And I'll tell you, we were using the word Hispanic back then, or people would be like, oh, this is Dominicano, Panamanian, all this. I had a Latino administrator basically call me into his office, and I was like, "Oh yeah, he's gonna like mentor me." And he's like, "You need to pick a side. You can't be both. You're black or you're Puerto Rican, or you're a person of African descent." And I was like, "You're supposed to be encouraging me. So basically, deuces. And what is wrong with you? And why are you even here as an administrator saying that kind of craziness?" And then I went to Cornell and then UMass Amherst. I've been 35 years deep in the movement as a scholar activist, as an independent journalist. And because I was an organizer, and there's an incredible moment of hardcore from the 90s, I would say, to about 2010, a couple years after Obama was elected. But really, for me, what the election of Obama showed was all these organizations began to collapse. Some maintain, but man, can I tell you, the amount of people who are like, yo, a black president is finally going to free us. Capitalism is not going to bother us. Or as Dave Chappelle would say, we rich, bitch. And look at what happened. The material conditions of black and brown people have not changed. They've gotten worse. So to me, people that are talking about Venezuela and talking about Minneapolis, if you don't talk about Puerto Rico, you're erasing Puerto Ricans in the diaspora and on the island. And what I mean by that, I've seen a lot of articles like hands off Venezuela, and then I'll be like, hands off Venezuela and free Puerto Rico. And then I was on a conference call, I think, 2 days ago. And I love my Instagram, folks. And, if you go on YouTube, Orlando, I'm seeing everything you're saying. Right? Fog brain again, as I wave to everybody on Instagram. So I was on this call for a collective known as the Scholars for Social Justice. I went to the convening of how it got founded, but after that, I just didn't stay up. Or I've known what goes in the newsletter and stuff. I sign up, and I respect so many people there. So I'm on the call, and all I said at one time in the chat was like, if you say hands off Venezuela, you have to say and free Puerto Rico. There's an excellent article on the Cut news site, CUT. I'm going to show you. And I'm sorry, this is kind of getting shaky. But I know what's happening. And it's called The Cut, Puerto Rico. It is entitled, here, I'm finding that right now. So if you're like at a desk right now, just say Puerto Rico, Trump, The Cut. Okay. I cannot find it right now, but I'll find the other one that Andrea Gonzalez Jimenez. She's a great, great journalist. And she says, on New Year's Eve, my parents drove 90 minutes from their home in Puerto Rico to Sabia to see the soldiers. Seba is where the Roosevelt Roads Naval Station, which closed in 2004. I was wrong with that date. It was 2004 when I was there, and is located. And the Trump administration reopened it as its push to remilitarize the Caribbean. Like many Puerto Ricans, my parents have been alarmed at the increasing tensions between the United States and Venezuela, as well as the resurgence of the U.S. military in the colony following a large and painful history of live fire exercises, environmental destruction, and displacement. But 3 days later, The Trump administration conducted a shocking illegal military incursion in Venezuela on January 3rd, capturing President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores. After extracting them from the country, the military stopped in the Puerto Rican town of Aguadilla before taking the couple to New York to stand trial. My parents and other islanders knew before the information was confirmed by the press. Donald Trump posted a photo showing a blindfolded, handcuffed Maduro wearing gray sweats and clutching a Nikina water bottle, a local brand. Since August, 10,000 troops have been deployed to the colony as what Trump officials say is a strategy of regional readiness amid the president's campaign against alleged terrorist drug cartels. They are still in Puerto Rico. The next article, The Cut. In order to get to Maduro, Trump had to go through Puerto Rico. So I'm on the call with scholars, movement people, organizers, and I literally said, can you just basically shout out the article? I was ignored. Mind you, I know folks on that. So what I did yesterday, I sent them an email. I said, listen, can you at least send an article that I gave to you and blast it out to your email list? No response. Again, I know these people, and I know they're not going to respond to me. And I know I'm not going to get any invitations anymore to go to convenience or whatever in Chicago. Because I don't care anymore. This is not an individual situation. This is why the United States keeps us as a military outpost in the Southern Command. As the Southern Command. 128 years of imperialism, colonization, sterilization. And I'm on a call with Scholars for Social Justice that completely erase Boricuas. And then you're doing it from Chicago. On top of all that, you can find a Boricua in Chicago to come and give some context. Because the movements, unless you're deeply embedded, particularly in Black struggles, all other people want to always erase Puerto Rico. The entire Caribbean nations that all are free, except for Puerto Rico, need to come together to support Puerto Rico and people in Puerto Rico and movements in Puerto Rico and the resurgence of an independence movement in Puerto Rico and a surge of feministas in Puerto Rico, of queer people in Puerto Rico, of Black people in Puerto Rico. And the connection is this. The August deployment happened on one of the last days of Bad Bunny's residency. While he's performing the lament, lo que pasó en Puerto Rico, lo que pasó en Hawaii, I don't want that to happen to Puerto Rico. 90 minutes away, literally what he was singing about was happening in Puerto Rico. Lo que pasó in Hawaii. I'm gonna find someone because it's a beautiful song. Beautiful, beautiful song. In order to get to Venezuela, Trump had to go to Puerto Rico. Let me see if I can find it now. Yes, I found it. Perfect. Look, and I know people are always like, Rosa, the lighting's not good and all that. Rosa does this on her own. I have no money. All of this is on my own because I've always been that person. I will make something happen. Aguadilla, Puerto Rico. Puerto Ricans have a saying, el que se va para Aguadilla pierde su sila, which means if you go to Aguadilla, you will lose your place in line. Excellent article. And then he says the same thing, and then he says, here's the attack, and then he's like, but as Trump ramped up pressure on Maduro in recent months, the U.S. has been sending in fighter jets, drones, and other military hardware to the territory, making it the key U.S. staging ground in the region. And that's why I was like, you're not even gonna say, dude from Venezuela, they went to Puerto Rico to kidnap him. They stopped in Puerto Rico to refuel. They closed Puerto Rico's airspace. So it's not that you don't know, it's that you purposely are saying, we don't care about Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico independence movement was destroyed. The Ponce massacre killed 35 people. The U.S. military opened fire and shot 37 Puerto Ricos in Ponce, Puerto Rico. Either 1910 or 1917. Maybe after 1910 or 17. Sometimes the dates. But also because our U.S. citizenship was imposed on Puerto Ricans. It was never like, hey, do y'all want to be part of the United States? It was like, no, you don't have a choice. And then they made us United States citizens to have more soldiers for World War I. And then you begin to see the 30s and 40s, and then you begin to see a strong militarized Puerto Rican independence movement, Don Pedro Albizu Campos, and then there were like Lolita Lebron and Rafael González Miranda, and two others, and what happened in 1954 when they went to the United States, where the vice president was, and when they went to the Congress, and they committed a political act of what people will call revolutionary violence in 1954. And they were captured, and they spent 35 to almost 45 years. No, maybe less than that. Eventually, the movement helped free them in the 70s. But then in the 80s, with a surge again of the Puerto Rican independence movement, we get 11 more political prisoners. So I think why, especially in New York City and Chicago, there's such an amazing, beautiful relationship with African American and Puerto Ricans is because we are used as citizens, not by choice, by circumstance, by imposition. So we have the same issues, right? And we live next to each other. We grew up with each other and all this, And also, listen, how the way Puerto Rico plays out, race plays out in Puerto Rico is very different. And people will be like, oh, Puerto Ricans are anti-Black. I'm like, yo, you sound crazy saying that. It's just like you sound crazy when you don't say Black and Puerto Rican people and Jamaican people started hip-hop culture in the Bronx. Hip-hop culture created a global African diasporic way in all the elements, all 5 of them. So I'm like, you couldn't even link to an article. And unfortunately, after all of this, hopefully they'll send out the link to the article. But I was on that call and I also was like, yo, what was this call? Was it just for people to get on and be like A, B, C, D, E, and then I don't, it was kind of weird. Or maybe it was just like what happens to me. I try to get down and then I'm like, yeah, I can't get down with that. I just can't. So yeah, there's also Black people that are anti-Black. Yeah, like Clarence Thomas. Like Black, it was so anti-Black, Clarence Thomas. And look, at the end of the day, it's this simple. Puerto Rico, the United States keeps Puerto Rico as a colony so he could do what it did to Maduro. And if people are going to think he's not going to try to do that to other countries, or nations in the Caribbean, even when people talk about Latin America, geopolitically, Puerto Ricans are always left out. And then Puerto Ricans on the island are U.S. citizens but can't vote for the president of the United States. But it imposes all its will. So then yesterday, because the heat is coming, it's coming fast. I've been talking about these two beautiful sisters that I just want to do my best, to support them, Latina and Debbie Perez with the Borinquen podcasts, because they've been facing attacks for like the last couple of months, and because they're younger, and because that's what happened to me, and because I do have concern for their welfare, because if any of this was alive, I would have never became an organizer. I'm very sensitive and I'm very empathetic. I am always in my feelings. So I got off the call, and then I started to see like the Bad Bunny trailer for the Super Bowl. And this is what I first wrote that's already getting heat. The amount of anti-Blackness. I got a dude here on my comment feed saying we mestizos, we're white, and you're mad light skinned. You know what Malcolm X said? Who taught you to hate yourself? Because even though I wasn't politicized until college, my parents never taught me to hate myself, my family, my Boricuaness. My parents were so amazingly able to always take us to Puerto Rico, to always take us to any family event of any cousins from the Bronx to Youngstown, Ohio. But there was a moment, not within my nuclear family, but there was a moment where I began to realize, like, some of my cousins are mad anti-Black. Or why didn't someone in my family tell me that I shouldn't go out in the sun, or my sister shouldn't go out in the sun, because we would be piedra, right? Like Black. I've heard people in my family use the N-word and say wetback. The older I got, the more I was like, listen, my mom has 15 brothers and sisters. We've lost 3. I got 2 aunts that are about to be in their 90s. I have over 175 cousins. Okay? My abuela had 16 children. My mom is one of them. 16 children. So the older I got, the more politicized I got. But definitely once I became, I think, the Rosa Clemente that people know, I've been already cut off lots of my cousins. Most of them are half white, like Irish, Italian. I got a couple cousins that are Puerto Rican and Chinese. But what's interesting is only my mom and my other titi both married Puerto Rican men. The other women and men in our family married white people. But that's still family in the sense of like family. But also, like, I'm too old to be putting up with your bullshit. Stop using this language. Don't come around me with that. Like, don't come over to mommy's house with your bullshit, because I won't let you in. And then when I got married to my husband, Justice, who's Black, my daughter is a Black Puerto Rican, I definitely was like, I am not exposing. I don't want my daughter to see any of this. Because I'm going to walk out. And I'm going to tell her at 5 years old why I walked out. And she'll remember at 21 why I walked out. So I said this. And this is why Ooh, people and their feelings. It's almost like that Bad Bunny is paying them residuals. And fam, the person sell. Oh, you know what? Let me answer a couple of questions. Thank you, because you are. Um, let me see. Oh, yeah, I don't do anything with ALOs, and that's all I'm gonna say, because their attack on people, it's just absolutely, absolutely too much. What are my thoughts on the Green Party now? Yeah, I've been left the Green Party. In the sense of like in any meetings or that. I'm still a registered Green, and maybe there'll be a Green person in New York that one day I can vote for. But if you're asking that, right, and that 2008 run, that's not an hour session. That's an entire seminar and class. And one day, all my thoughts will be revealed. But I do respect those in other parts of the country that have been elected as Greens. I just think the Green Party just made the biggest mistake they made is not to have me be the spokesperson for the party. I could have been building the party from 2008 to now. I mean, the Democratic Socialists, or, particularly their entire platform, they took from the Green Party and cut some of it out. That's why I don't ever with the Democratic Socialists of America. No. So yeah. So anyway, this is what I posted. Thank you. We are legends. And you know what? I'm leaning into that. I'm in my menopause, best stage of my life. What I was realizing, fam, what I've been doing is silencing myself, because love some of my peeps. Rosa, don't say anything. It's going to be hard for you to get a gig. Rosa, this is not the time. Rosa, you're not going to get a job. And all of that is true. And all of that is happening. But I have nothing to complain about. I have a family. I have comrades. I have friends. I have peers. I have a husband. I have a community online. I was silencing myself because it's difficult for sure. When yeah. Ooh, sorry. I'm sure somebody that I love right now is going to be like, don't cry. But yet be the authentic you, but be the real you. Don't hide it. So crazy. Yeah. Mm. Ooh. Now somebody's going to text me, you're crying, that's why you're not going to get a job. Ooh, anyway. Yeah, this is who I am, and I'm not going to be ashamed of it anymore. I'm just not going to. I don't have that many years left on this planet, right? Like, I have less years than the years I've been alive for 53 years, So I said, I can't silence myself. I'll find a job, hopefully, or I'll do what I've always done, create something and make it happen. But I also know I have a lot of people that do support me and are looking for me and all that kind of stuff. And I think also for the last decade, I've had my own business with my LLC, and I spent like a hard 10 years on the road, and it's been great. But maybe like you all as well, once the attacks on higher education and history happened, people like me who are on speaker bureau, and I've talked to a lot of my friends who are on it, we're not getting any gigs, we're not getting any gigs. And it hasn't been a year, it's going into 2 years now. And then academia for sure has been afraid to hire folks like me, because they were afraid, like someone like me, a professor. And in fact, I know a dear sister, and it's her story to tell, as a professor at New Paltz, that she stood with the students, and I think she's talked about it publicly, but I don't want to say, and hopefully she's watching. Um, the way the administration came at her and another one of her colleagues for supporting the students when they were being brutalized by New Paltz police is they basically were iced out. And she made a very brave decision to leave. She's a beautiful, dope scholar, and also she's an incredible professor. But people were like exiled, like, you're if you dare to teach that, or you have to show me your syllabus before it's approved or anything like that, right? So I said, this is not the time to be silent. Thank you, brother or sis, or non-binary, lean into it. It's the truth. Yes. So this is what I posted yesterday. I know it's 45 minutes. Oh no, we're good. Dear Boricuas, Bad Bunny does not identify as Afro-Black or Black Puerto Rican, and this is okay. Bad Bunny is not a political leader, and this is okay. Bad Bunny is not part of an organization, nor is he an activist or an organizer. Bad Bunny did not save the Puerto Rican economy through his residency. Most of that money went to Airbnb and white people's businesses. The median yearly income for a four-person family in Puerto Rico is $30,876. Try living as one person in the United States with a yearly income of $31,000. Yeah, try that. You know who has that income? A high school student working for minimum wage at a retail location. Bad Bunny has a net worth of 100 million. Imagine if he used 1/5 of it and donated to grassroots organization and movements in Puerto Rico without any, quote, deliverables, and would trust those organizations and people. Puerto Rico's debt is $37 billion, and it's a man-made fiscal disaster hastened by Promesa. Bad Bunny can't fix that. The unintended consequences of his residency, gentrification is moving at a rapid speed. Bomba y Plena has been co-opted. White people are buying land in Puerto Rico for pennies on a dollar. And people are fetishizing our culture, our politics, our movements. People want to love Puerto Rico, but don't know anything about what happened to Adán Pedro Albizu Campos, our political prisoners, the 1/3 of the women that were sterilized, the fact that the Sackler family tested opioids first on pregnant Puerto Rican women. Yes, first on pregnant Puerto Rican women. The Sackler family that is to blame for the 15 years of opioid crisis in this country. Bad Bunny performing at the Super Bowl means more co-optation of our culture. Bad Bunny is one person. He is only 31 years old. Let him be the incredible artist that he is. Let him make mistakes. Let him grow. Bad Bunny is not the savior of Puerto Rico. He is not going to decolonize us nor get us free. Only we, the people, can do this. If you have just read this and you are not part of an organization, join a group and support the reemergence of the independent movement throughout the Puerto Rican diaspora. You could go look at the comments. One thing I did that I was always good at, I never, ever, ever read the comments, right? And then one of them was like, well, Amazon's going to build schools. For who and for what? And why does Bad Bunny have a deal with Amazon, period? You mean like the software Palantir that is used to capture undocumented people? So this is the thing. Bad Bunny said he wasn't going to perform in the United States because of what was happening to undocumented people. August, September, October, November, December, January. 7 months later, he is going to 8 months. Well, no, sorry. August, September, October, November, December, January. 7. So from August, at the last days of his residency, to the football, to the Super Bowl, it's going to be 7 months. So you didn't perform in the United States because the way undocumented people were being threatened. But you're going to now perform at the Super Bowl after the ICE, those same people that you said it would impact your, if people came to your show. So you're going to perform at the Super Bowl, giving the current crumbling of the empire, the detention and disappearance of tens of thousands of people. Where are they? You know where they're at? In some warehouse. And then they're going to be moved into, quote, a detention center. Do you know how many people don't know where their people are at? Then you shoot this woman in her face. And then you get more troops. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, I didn't do the tour in the US and then perform at the Super Bowl. I mean, you can and you will. So this is why he shouldn't perform at the Super Bowl. Bad Bunny performing at the Super Bowl is not a win for Puerto Rican people. As the co-optation grows around Bomba Plena, one of the traditions of our cultural and political history, fam, I really don't want to see Bomba Plena at the Super Bowl. I'm not watching it, but I know it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. So while people are getting excited about this show, Puerto Rico continues to be a colony. 128 years of colonial domination. So what do we call representatives doing? What is Bad Bunny doing? Performing at the Super Bowl, entertaining the empire while people are murdered, disappeared, or suffering, or living in fear under domestic terrorist calls. I've never understood football. I've always seen it as horribly violent, hyper-masculine, glorifying and perpetuating violence against women. I've always seen it as a spectacle. I don't care about Jay-Z and Rock Nation and billionaires. I don't care that Black and brown celebrities are eating while staying quiet. Ask yourself, where are all these, quote, Latinx power players in Hollywood now? Afraid. And even Hollywood is crumbling. And there's this whole thing between celebrity artists, and it's unbelievable that you don't see any of them, especially Latino ones. But I mean, if someone's going to think J-Lo is going to say something, then you're not paying attention, right? Like, but also, where are you? You could be doing something. You could go to a protest, right? Like, you could do that. You could resource an organization. I'm not seeing it. I'm not saying it's not happening, but I think it's not happening. The Super Bowl reminds me of the Hunger Games. Literally reminds me of the Hunger Games. Over 100 million people in this country are about to be below the poverty level. 30 million people have lost their health care. Schools are falling apart. Higher ed is falling apart. The white supremacy nationalism that's coming out of the White House should have everybody ready and concerned. ICE is murdering people. The Department of Homeland Security is disappearing people. Black and brown bodies are being caged, separated from their families, deported to unknown countries, dying in detention centers. This is happening now. It's actually not dystopian future. It's here. The Hunger Games are here. One battle after another are here. In Puerto Rico, white people and cryptocurrency boys have taken over our land, buying up property, gentrifying our neighborhoods, displacing families, and adding to the forced migration that has been happening since the United States invaded us. The fetishizing of our culture, wearing our flag as a costume, drinking coquito, trying to make coquito, taking beaches and trying to privatize them, even destroying our turtles as they lay their eggs. No, I don't want to see white folks repping Puerto Rico like that. With the hat. No, I don't. I don't. Because that's what I taught. You're fetishizing it. And as a Boricua, if your Boricuaness is about your hat or your little flag on your car dashboard, or that you went to a Coquito Masters, what do you like? What is your politic? I mean, it's almost like all our secrets are being taken away. Like, man, white people never came to Puerto Rico before this, right? Like, damn, now they know they could come here like that. Coquito is now everywhere. They got the Coquito milkshake and the Coquito lotion and all of that. And I'm like, Coquito was our secret, and we giving that away. Y después, bomba y plena. I literally saw an ad for a town near me of a white dance studio, exclusive now. You can pay $100 an hour and you can be a bombero. You are a bomba y plena. No, that shit is African. It shouldn't be on display like this. The flip side too is like, damn, they sounded so amazing with Bad Bunny. The album is fantastic. And you know what? That's okay to admit that. We're all in our contradictions. I like watching award shows. Contradiction? Absolutely. I'm not trying to judge. This is my opinion. Okay, maybe I'm judging a little bit. But I mean, I don't have to judge, but so they want our music, our food, and our style and our language, but they don't want to learn anything about us, and they don't want to be part of a movement to decolonize Puerto Rico and finally for us to be free. But man, we're not at the Purge or Hunger Games, so we certainly caught up to the Handmaid's Tale in this country. Displacement, poverty, lack of healthcare, police violence, military occupation, environmental destruction. The empires collapsing, all empires die. We could try to keep the empire going, or we can try to imagine what happens and what we will do when the empire completely crumbles. We have to be organizing and building power. We have to create alternative systems. We have to take care of our mental health. We have to take care of our families and our neighbors, but we can resist. It doesn't have to be big every day, but every day someone can show a level of resistance. This is not about cancel culture. This is not bitter or jealousy. This is about demanding more from ourselves and our community. This is about understanding that representation without liberation is colonialization. Bad Bunny has a platform. He has influence, has millions of fans around the world. What if he said, Yankee, go home, I'm not performing at the Super Bowl? Unfortunately, I do not think that's going to happen. And I think his performance is to make the colonizer comfortable, given that empire is also propaganda and entertainment. Meanwhile, Puerto Ricans who are fighting for independence, for decolonization, from sovereignty, the fact that the governor in Puerto Rico is the co-founder of Latinos for Trump, this is what he should be using those resources for. Make it make sense, because it doesn't. But the power is always in your hands, in my hands. What do? We educate ourselves. We talk to our friends and neighbors. We read. We study our history. The real, bloody, complicated truth of what this country, what this nation has done to Puerto Rico since it invaded us in 1898. We must support our people on the ground right now. A report came out, an AP article came out that 3 months ago, people and organizations in Puerto Rico found out that there was an infiltrator that was working with the Puerto Rican police and FBI to disable the work that they've been doing. La Colectiva, Feminista Colectiva, was specifically mentioned in that report. We build mutual aid networks like we did after Hurricane Maria. We support all political prisoners. No movement is worth nothing if it leaves its political prisoners' cage. We demand reparations from the United States of America for 120 years of extraction of not just our people, but our culture and our land. We demand decolonization. We demand leaders in Puerto Rico stop paying the debt. We demand an electrical grid so that people on the island are worried about when the next blackout is going to happen. We have to stop thinking that celebrities and corporations define what liberation looks like. What they do is try to clamp down on movements around liberation. So to me, the Super Bowl is not culture, it's empire, propaganda, the worship of violence, domestic violence, capitalism, white supremacy, packaged as entertainment. And every time we participate, whether as performers or viewers, we are consenting to our own oppression. I'm not interested in being comfortable or interested in being polite. I'm not interested in making this palatable for people who benefit from our suffering. I'm interested in liberation. I'm interested in decolonization. I'm interested in justice. I'm interested in self-determination. I'm interested in mutual aid. I'm interested in make sure that LGBTQIA Boricuas are not harmed or violently killed. And if this makes anybody uncomfortable, that's good. I live in my uncomfortability. I like people pushing me. I like younger people saying, the way you did it then is not the same way we can do it now. Comfort and pretending that what we're seeing happening is not going to affect us. This is what God is here. In 128 years of colonization, the emergence of a Puerto Rican independence movement throughout the diaspora is beautiful. So for scholars and activists and progressives and organizers, when you say hands off Venezuela, in order to get to Venezuela, the military Trump has to go through Puerto Rico. So the next time you do an event like that, why don't you have one Boricua on? And not me, okay? Thousands of us can be on it. It should be a younger person doing this work. It should be a younger person that's pushing us to do this. It's about supporting the Daughters of Sons of Borinquen, the Bori Collective. It's about supporting, again, all the incredible work after Hurricane Maria. It's about supporting Puerto Rican young folks that are coming into their radicalism and giving up my mic, our generation's mic, and give it to the younger people. I came into this movement embraced as a young person. I was a youth till I was 35. And now I'm a mentor, I'm a sounding board, but I'm also not just going to be silent because I'm older. So honestly, fam, who's about to hate on this, people that are going to be doing their comments, wake the fuck up. You're not special. None of us are, quote, special. See what's going on in Palestine, the continuing genocide. Ask yourself, where are these people that are arrested? Where are they? Do something. We have to stop spectacle because that's distraction. Puerto Rico will be free. The revolution, though, will not be performed at a halftime. So, no. Bad Bunny should not perform at the Super Bowl, but Bad Bunny will be performing at the Super Bowl. Unless he, like, like, who's gonna even read anything or what would do it or saying? He shouldn't perform. I mean, maybe a Boricua group out here, some younger cats, some organization, do a petition. I don't know. I don't believe petitions change anything. But what I do know is that other people need to speak up who feel the same way. And if fear is in you, that's completely understandable. That's the whole point. They want us to be afraid. But we also have to hold those accountable. They said that they love our struggle and all of that, and are doing all these hands off Venezuela and completely erasing Puerto Rico, the military outposts of the United States. So on Monday, January 19th, I am doing a one-on-one organizing, completely free workshop. I want to offer something at that day. Usually I would be at a gig. And even if I had a gig, I would still be doing this because a lot of people who watch my feed are like, I want to become an organizer. I don't know where I start. I don't know what to do. And I said, this is what I can provide. This is what makes me inspired. This is what makes me happy. And if nobody's going to hire me for it, I'm still going to do it. And it's free, but I started off with 40, 10 are filled, 30 left. Literally 2.5 hours organizing one-on-one. That's also going to have a safety component, like how you keep yourself safe in situations. Email me, clementarosa@gmail.com, and you're in. You do not have to be Boricua. You don't have to do anything. I just figured this was the best day because also, you know how they're going to co-opt Dr. King the next 3 days, especially watch all these Republicans be like, Dr. King wanted us to be equal. And we're, like they're always trying to co-opt that. But as well, starting on February 1st, on the first day of Black History Month, I am doing my seminar again about the Black Puerto Rican radical tradition. I have a couple signups. I'm not getting what I usually what I thought the response might be, but I also know that asking people for $150 is a lot, and I recognize that, but I also can't just do everything for free, Material resources are, what keeps us alive. And it's a 5-week session. And the last one was incredible. I learned so much from it. Some of the participants straight email me like, this is what worked. This is what did not work. And if you're watching and took it last time, you're going to get an email from me tomorrow, letting you know that you can take it. You can join again, but for free. I had one sister that joined both, and she paid for the first one, she paid for the second one. I've had some people ask me, is there payment arrangements? Absolutely. And I do have 4 spaces left. I did this in the last seminar where it's I had 10. I got 5 spaces left for anyone between 16 and 24. All you do is email me, prove to me that you're 16 or 24, and you're in automatically. All the sessions will be recorded and available to the participants. I'm gonna keep doing reels and posting it, but it begins on February 1st, and I'll just read you real quick the post. Um, the Black Puerto Rican radical tradition confronting anti-Blackness in the Latinx community with Dr. Rosa Alicia Clemente. This seminar examines the Black Puerto Rican radical tradition as a framework for combating anti-Blackness within Latinx communities. Do you need to be Puerto Rican? Absolutely not. I focus on this because no one who's doing this work could do all of it. Like I can't do Afro-Dominican and Afro-Cuban, Afro-Panamanian, Afro-Central America. Like you gotta you can't go that big. And also for me, I'm building off the legacy of Robin Kelly's Black radical tradition, all the work he has done around that. I'm building off of that because there's a racial capitalism piece in it. And that for a long time was like the thing I didn't really understand. And then I studied more and had conversations with people. So you don't have to be Boricua. Okay. So it begins on February 1st, Sunday, February 1st, first day of Black History Month. And it goes on for 5 weeks. It ends on March 1st. So Sundays 2 to 4 p.m. Like I said, $150 for the fee. You can cash out me at Black BLK Rican and 1972. And then Venmo at Clemente Rosa. It will be Zoomed, recorded. Capacity was 50 people. I'm down to 41 spots left. And like I said, 5 free spots. So email me if you're 16 or 24, or if someone that you know is 16 or 24 and want them to join. And después, registration is clementerosa@gmail.com. Your name, age, and location. This posting is pinned on my grid on Instagram. The first week will be Black Puerto Rican identity formation. The second one is racial affirmations from Schomburg to the young lords to the youth. Political resistance. Week 3 is political resistance in Puerto Rico and the diaspora of Puerto Ricans, 1898 to the present. Week 4 is sites of resistance. That means either like the Schomburg is a site that exists on 125th Street, but hip hop is a culture that's also a site of resistance. And then week 5, public history as a tour for liberation. Those of us who are historians and were trained for a very, very long time, we would hear, you can't study something till its 25 years have passed. And a new generation of scholars are like, public history is happening all the time. Public history is your family and your family tree, right? A site of resistance for your family could be the beach. It could be 1 year you're going somewhere and you learn something, right? So sites of resistance are either the actual, brick and mortar, but also within your mind, And I really thank a lot of younger folks that been telling me like, yeah, Rosa, but there's mad anti-Blackness in the Puerto Rican diaspora. And I was like, no, we're better now. And they're like, no, we're not. We're not. Like, I was like, oh, okay, then we have to face that. So I want to end with someone that posted because they gave an offering of a poem, and I would like to read it. Here it is. Sorry, the comments. I gotta wear the comments. Okay, here it is. Okay. Here it is. If you go to where I have the Dear Boricuas, where I kind of run down the litany of Bad Bunny and then us, you'll see the poem. So let me read it. Right. Bad Bunny isn't a savior. History has taught us that no celebrity, no matter how powerful their platform, will ever carry a people to freedom. Liberation has never been handed down from a stage. It has always been built in the streets, in the homes, in the hands of the people who refuse to disappear. Because this moment, because according to them, okay, this moment being on the halftime stage matters. It's us center stage. We never had that growing up. It still feels unreal that the world will finally see us. See the kids who learned to be invisible, see the families who carried islands in their pockets, see the accents we were told to soften, see the culture we were told was too much. The stage has never been ours, not in this way, not in front of the world. And now, for millions of people watching, Puerto Rico won't be a footnote, a vacation spot, or a punchline. It will be a language, a rhythm, a people. See, two things can be true at the same time. This person that posted this, pretty much everything they have said, I am in complete opposition. But this person has a right to what is making them proud. This is my politic. My politic is you sound ridiculous or whatever, or you're hating on me, or my politic is no, listen. And then we can have a conversation together. Even if you're saying that's important, I'm saying it might be important, but I don't want to see it because the cooptation of our culture, and also because like I hate football and I hate everything it represents, you know? But then there's a person who is also giving me some beautiful words from their perspective. And that's how we get better. Steel sharpens steel, right? I'm not going to delete that comment because it's a different politic or a difference in our politic. That would be being petty. Okay? First of all, thank you. I had a lot to say. I really wanted to bring it kind of all together. I wanted you to know like my offering for the workshop on the 19th, my seminar. And it was good for me to get in my feelings around like things that happen when you choose to speak out, especially in these times. And I don't even think 3 years ago I loved myself more than I've ever loved myself, even with my health issues, even with being isolated because of them, even with applying to so many jobs and just being rejected and rejected. This is how I go to sleep at night. I decompress. I begin to think. I'm not a religious person, but I believe in ancestors and I believe in spirituality. And I'll run down the day in my head and then I'll say, whatever bad thing you think happened to you today, in comparison to the people in this country that are truly, truly being broken by poverty. I have a family that loves me. I got friends that love me. I got comrades that love me. I got my mentors that love me. I love mentoring young people as well. I'll think about all the political prisoners that I began to even become aware of through the Jericho movement. Please go to Jericho movement right now. Sign up for everything. I'll say to myself, and I think the closest former political prisoner to me, and I've had the most interaction, is Jalil Munti Kim. And when he got out, he got paroled to Rochester, New York. And I live in Albany, so I have more opportunities to see him than ever. But when he got out, the first conversation I said is like, Baba, You just got out like 2 weeks ago. Go chill. Rochester's mad cold. Be somewhere tropical. He said, what you don't understand, and your generation might not understand, he said, when we said we were ready to fight for Black liberation in the Black Panther Party and then eventually in the Black Liberation Army, know the difference? He said, whether I did it on the outside or the inside, I'm a revolutionary. I'm going to find a home, even if it's a home behind behind a wall. And the crazy thing is, it might have been 1 or 2 years after maybe it was the first year, um, the Rochester Police Department picked him up. And I think it was specifically like that he might have gone to get his license and maybe had checked off that he could vote. And I just thought in New York that was gone, that you don't have to check a box like that. But whatever happened, the Rochester police came, they arrested him, they detained him. And then I realized this country is so vengeful that after over 50 years, and he survived everything that happened to him, now he's out in his community. They never want to let you forget that he wasn't there for 50 years. And that's what they don't want you to know about political prisoners, a Mumia, a David Gilbert, so many, as Chairman Fred Hampton said, the Rainbow Coalition. This country's so vengeful that they not only assassinated Fred Hampton and Mark Clark, and thought they also killed Akua and Jerry, who at that time was carrying Fred Hampton Jr. and would give birth to him months after the December 4th, 1969. And it was the FBI in cahoots with the Chicago Police Department. And they shot into that house 99 times. And Mark Clark and Chairman Fred Hampton were assassinated. And Akua and Jerry, also in the Black Panther Party, right, as his partner as well, was right next to him. And not one bullet hit her. And I think less than a month or 6 weeks later, Fred Hampton Jr., Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. was born. I've known him since 2001. This country is so vengeful that during the LA rebellion and how other cities were participating, he was arrested and they said he was committed an arson. And I think he was locked up for maybe like 9 or 10 years. And I always knew about him, but it was definitely like Dead Prez's album, Let's Get Free. And then once I met M1 of Dead Prez, who's like, no, that's like my comrade. Like, and then when he was released in 2001, after September 11th, I think September 20th, but before, that's when M1 was like, yo, could you put a speaking tour together? I was like, yeah, let's go. And for 2 years, we were on the road. And I just was like, I cannot believe I am doing a tour for M1 from Dead Prez and Fred Hampton Jr. Fast forward 2018, I got a call from his brother Shaka King, who's part of the Blackout for Human Rights Collective I am part of, that Ava DuVernay, Ryan Coogler, and Jesse Williams started. And they started it really because of what was going on in Flint with the water crisis, but also the violence of the police that were continually killing Black people in that new time period. And he was like, I was like, yeah. I don't talk to him about hitting him up. But then I was like, why? I want to make a movie about Fred Hampton. I was like a movie? Yes. I said, okay. I said, but I just want you to know that a lot of people have tried to make that movie. Chairman Fred and Akua, his mother, pretty much turned down everybody who wanted to make that movie. Well, no, they turned down everybody. And I talked to Fred and I said, Chairman, you know me, trust me. And that's how Judas and the Black Messiah was made. And that's why I was an associate producer. Y'all know Daniel won the Oscar, and also her won an Oscar. The Oscars that time were during the COVID. COVID was almost done, but it was still during the COVID crisis. But I actually went out to LA to be with them after the Oscars. And I looked at Chairman Fred and I was like, holy shit. We got that movie made. And rest in peace, Chacha Jimenez, because the movie filmed in Ohio, Cincinnati. One of Fred Hampton's demands was that Chacha and the Young Lords be included. And I was like, absolutely, we're going to make sure. And if anybody's seen the movie, and it wasn't a lot, but there's a moment where you see someone portraying Chacha Jimenez, but then Fred and Ryan and them made sure that Chacha came to see the movie being made for 2 or 3 days, and I was there at the same time. And so I'm seeing Daniel do that historic speech in the church, right? And I'm watching it, and I'm watching the actors, and then I'm walking downstairs, and I'm seeing Fred and Chacha next to each other. And I said, in what world did I ever think this was going to happen? And Ryan Coogler said, I said to him, I said, well, your first movie was about a Black Panther, and your second movie is about a Black Panther. And listen, many people critique that because it did focus too on William O'Neill, the FBI agent who infiltrated and became Fred's security, Chairman Fred security. The United States government feared Chairman Fred Hampton so much that they assassinated him before he even turned 24 years old. Men and women from the 60s, from the 80s, and now probably a new generation of political prisoners. So when I go to sleep, the last things I always say, there are political prisoners and people who gave 50 years of their freedom. I have nothing to complain about. And I say that every night. Whether I'm feeling good or not, I have nothing to complain about. I've been blessed to be in this movement. And honestly, I've been blessed to be embraced in, quote, Black circles, African-American circles. Because all other Latino people, they hate me. They're like, can you not talk about race? So like, I'm not talking to you anymore, kind of thing. And I don't take that for granted. And even though I wasn't born into the movement, I am so grateful that my daughter was born into a movement. So share this, watch it. It was long. I'm trying to put it all together. Maybe this should be a keynote. I'll get it edited. But my whole point is, fam, we in it. Find your people. Join my workshop. Join my seminar. And I'm going to be coming on here a little bit more. Okay. Honestly, if anybody wants to help me with the show, I definitely need like a social media with a volunteer person. Maybe we could make a trade with each other. It'd be great if I had a social media person and also someone else as well to help me, and who's always the producer, Tanvi. It'd be great if you know video editing, social media, or producing and want to volunteer. Maybe we could, like I said, we could do some mutual aid and cooperative economics where I have a skill set that you are looking for. I know I need, folks to help me with the show. All right. Everybody have a good weekend. Stay safe. Everything is already uploaded and stuff. Hit me up. Let me know what you think. And listen, if you completely disagree with me, that's okay. Let's just do it in a way that's respectful to each other. All right. Peace, fam.